guys, so I'm on my way to Joann's. We are going to shop for fabric for my prom dress that I'm attempting to make. This will be the first prom dress that I make. I'm looking to make this Zendaya dress. I'll put it on the screen. It's like a pink, light pink, nude pastel dress with multiple colors, and it has like sequins. So I'm hoping we're able to find some similar fabric, and hopefully I'm able to execute it like I want it to. And yeah, we'll see you in the fabric store. I was able to find this. As you saw on the dress, there's like a sequin lining, so this will be a pretty good fit, pretty much exact, although it may be multiple color sequins she has, but this is just like a replica, a remake. So I think this will be a perfect fit to match the dress. A gold and pastel pink work good together. So I'm back from the fabric store. It's been like 5 hours since then. Yeah, it took me like an hour and a half to 2 hours in the fabric store, which is not good, but anytime I'm in there I get distracted and, you know, see things and want to buy everything, so that's not good. But some other things I got, I spent $63 with the coupons and all of that, so that was good. Plus I used my Joann's gift card. But starting out, so I got muslin. I got 3 different types of muslin because it was 50% off, and I want to start prototyping things that I make because I've been guessing a lot of the times and messing up, and then I waste the good fabric. So I do want to start prototyping with the muslin here. I got 3 different types: white, this, and another color. And yeah, this is like a tan. So excited to use that. I'll probably use it for the top of the dress. And I also got, this is the fabric that I showed you guys in the store. So this piece, it's a nice pretty like pastel darker pink. This is going to be in the middle section of the dress. I'll have it there on the page so you can see. And then this piece is probably going to be the top and the bottom. If you see in the picture, it's 3 different types of pink. They didn't have that, so I'm just going to use these 2. And then we have this like nudish color, and this will be for the, it's like a nudish pink, but it's very light, like a tint of it. And this is gonna be for the dress piece, the flowy piece with ruffles. So I got like 2 1/4 yards of this. And then of course we have the sequins. Oops, some are falling off. So I got like 5 yards of this. So we'll use this to line it. And I think I'll probably end up gluing it, but we'll see. So now we're gonna start with the prototype. So here I am starting the draping process of using my draping tape and trying to mimic the shape of the dress as much as possible. I have another screen in the back there. That's why I'm looking back and forth to try and copy that shape. This was my first time draping, so I really hope that this turns out good. I am trying to, you know, take sewing more seriously and do it like a professional would. So that's what I'm doing here, and there will be some alterations because I don't want it to be exactly how the Zendaya dress is, as it's super deep in the front. This is what we have so far. Not bad. This will be one piece of fabric, and this will be another piece of fabric. So as you see here, you have this part, and since it's 2 different colors of fabric, we know that this had to be cut, so there was a seam here. So that's what this is. So you have this first piece, and then the undercut comes like right under the boob. I may want to move it out a little bit more, and then this piece here for another piece of fabric, and then I guess this should be a seam, so I may add another piece here, and then we sew it up, and then we just do the same thing on this side. As you see here, there's 3 splits. There's 3 splits for that top part, so I went ahead and add one here. I didn't want to at first because that's just going to be more work, but want to do it right. So we're gonna have one piece of fabric, one piece of fabric, 1, 2, and then of course mirror that for that side. All right, so now it's a bit later in the day, but we want to grab our muslin. And this part, honestly, I probably should have looked up how to do this because I'm just winging it here, but I have seen people do it, and they just put the muslin, place it on the fabric, and kind of trace each shape, but they don't cut it on the mannequin, so that's where I went wrong. But this is my first time, and I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out. So I finished doing the top portion pattern piece. This is my first time patterning, so I hope it turns out good. We're gonna cut out the lines, and then we'll add seam allowance, put it on paper, and then sew it together and see how it fits. On to the next phase. We cut out the muslin, and now I'm tracing it onto the pattern paper, and then we'll add seam allowance and start again tomorrow. So it's day 2 of making a prom dress. What we have so far, yesterday I draped it on the mannequin, or I mapped it out on the mannequin. We created the pieces with muslin, and I went ahead and transferred it to the paper, and I added a 1/4 inch of a seam allowance. So what we're gonna do now is transfer that to a similar fabric, to like my knit fabric. It's a mix of like knit and kind of cottonish, I think, or polyester. So we're gonna transfer that onto that fabric, then we'll sew everything up and see how it looks. I decided to use this fabric. These are the bottom 2 pieces we're gonna cut out and trace. Then we have those 2 pieces for the top part. We'll sew it connected and then see kind of how that works. Okay, you guys, so here is the prototype. As you see, it's really not bad when you look at the Zendaya photo. In terms of the execution, like everything looks very similar. It's just wider than it needs to be. So I made these 2 pieces a little bit too big. So I'll probably take off like about 1 inch on each side. And then I think it'll come closer together here. Back here, so these 2 top pieces, and this is mine. So I think it's looking pretty similar. I took out some of this. I took out about 1/4 of an inch on each side, and I think it looks pretty good. And I also tried it against my body. It seems to fit like I want it to, so I'm happy about that. Next, now we need to work on this bottom here with the little zigzags and attach it to that. Hopefully that's not too hard, and we'll probably have to add a zipper at the back. Also, as you can see with hers just goes straight down, but I didn't want mine that low, so that's why I added this part here when I did the draping tape, because I didn't want mine to go as far down. Here I'm measuring the top length to my belly button to waist, so I know where that zigzag piece is gonna start and stop. So right now I'm working on this bottom zigzag piece portion here. I measured half of my waist, so that's going to be the front portion, which is 15 inches across, and then 18 inches long. It's about 18 inches long. I just figured that's a pretty good size because this stops, like the point stops like at the top of my pelvis area. This is the prototype fabric that I'll be using. Here's the muslin fabric. What I did was make sure to measure, so I have the middle point, which is in the middle of the fabric, so I measured that. Now I'm working on the muslin just so I make sure when I cut it, it looks how I want before I cut out the prototype fabric. So here I think it's looking pretty good, so I cut out this side and then I'm just folding it in half. That way it will be the exact same on this side. Then I'll go ahead and fold the fabric in half and just cut it up for this side, and then we'll trace it to this piece. So here's the muslin fabric. We cut that out. I think it's a pretty good shape that I like. And here is the real fabric. It's coming along pretty nicely. I'm realizing I may have to add some length to this though, because at my waist it may be a little bit too short. Now I'm going to go ahead and sew these 2 together, and then we'll see how it looks. All right, you guys, so oh my gosh, this is coming out like so good. I don't want to jinx anything, but here is how it's looking so far. After adding the bottom piece, I can see the similarities a lot more, so I'm happy about that. And I know once I add the sequins, it'll really pull the final look together. At this point, I'm now transferring the pattern pieces to the real fabric that I'm using for the final making of the dress. Because we finished the prototype, there were some alterations I had to make, so I'm keeping that in mind as I'm transferring it to the real fabric. Now it is time to sew everything up. This fabric was very thin, so I was having trouble at first, but then I just used some stabilizer and that made everything work out. Here's the bottom piece with the pointers, so I'm cutting that out so when I flip it inside out, it lays nice and flat, and we're snipping off some of that raw edge fabric there. Here's how it looks. Very happy with the turnout, very neat. As you see, that stitching is pretty good, but there were some wrinkles, so I'm trying to iron that out just so the stitching one locks in and it lays nice and flat. Moving on to the middle portion, we're really cracking down on this dress. I'm just ripping out some of that stabilizer, again going in with that iron so we make sure everything looks as neat as possible. Okay, so this is how it's looking so far. We're getting at the latch stretch here. I sewed up all these pieces. That took some time. This part was very easy. Now I'm gonna iron that, so that's why it's all wrinkly, and I'm gonna iron that out, and then we're gonna sew these pieces together and then sew the top and the bottom, and then we will start the bottom piece. Moving on to the last hard piece of the dress. I'm measuring my waist. I put a mark on my shirt there because that's where the middle piece seam will be. So we got to measure the waist area and then measure the length of how long the skirt needs to be, and then we can go from there. This was actually one of the harder parts of the dress. I would have finished a long time ago, but for some reason I just couldn't find the pattern. It was just hard for me, so I ended up just measuring my waist like I did and pinning it up to the mannequin and sewing along there. I added a waistband. That's where I'll connect it onto the top piece that we made. All right, you guys, so here is how the dress is looking. We are right there at the finish line. All I need to do, so this part, there are some tension issues, so I'm gonna need to bring this in a little bit so this is not pulling and it lays down nice and flat. And then we have the sequins that need to be added to the outline, and then of course the straps that'll be lined with the gold sequins as well. And then there's a little slit here that needs to be cut, and then everything will be finished. This was my favorite part of this dress, adding these sequins. We put some glue there on the edge. I waited for it to get a bit tacky, then added some of those sequins piece by piece. And you'll see I pinned the sequins up because I didn't want it to hang and cause the sequins to fall off. But in the next clip, you will see the final piece. Here is the final result of the Zendaya remake dress, the first prom dress I ever made. Honestly, I'm very happy with the results. There are only about 3 things I wish I would have done better. Overall, super satisfied. Let me know in the comments what you guys think.